I'll tell you what. Sorry, I'll tell you one thing. Every single game we've watched this week, this round of football, this new format of one game, the substitutes have had impact. Yeah. It's so important now, and now more than ever it seems that the squad, the depth in your squad on that bench is of huge importance.
Therefore, that leads to an obvious question: what about Pep's substitution? He only brought Mahrez on really to change things, and these little geniuses or the playmakers, he left a lot of them on the sidelines. He played a negative game in terms of how he normally plays this evening, certainly in his starting lineup. Did he mess it up tonight?
I think he's going to have a look at himself in terms of his team selection, yes, and the way he changed his formation. I mean, even, for instance, Cancelo playing left-back, how many times the ball came out there and he came back on his right foot? And getting behind teams is what Pep's about. Overloads in wide areas and getting behind teams. And in them areas behind the two wing-backs were perfect opportunities probably to get behind it. But you need creative players to draw people out, create space for runners to then get in. And they didn't do it enough this game, definitely.
We'll talk about that in greater detail shortly. But first, let's hear from Kevin De Bruyne. He's with Des Kelly.
Kevin, that's heartbreaking tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different year, same stuff. I think first half wasn't good enough. I think we know that. We started slow. We had not many options, but I think second half we played really well. We come back 1-1. We had a couple of chances, and then obviously, the 2-1 and the 3-1 ends the game, and it's a shame for us to go in that way.
The 2-1 is important because VAR didn't give offside, but it also didn't give a foul on the court. Have you had a chance to talk about it? What's the reaction?
I have no idea. I've not seen it back, so whatever they decide, they decide. I'm not gonna blame that. I think we should have done better, but I have to look back to see whatever it was.
Is it all the more painful because you got back on terms and you'd started to play like Manchester City we expected?
Well, I think the second half we played well. I think we had them under pressure. We played more offensive like we normally do, and I think we had them. And their keeper made a few saves, and even at a 2-1, if Res scores the goal, it's 2-2, and the game goes on. But that's football. It's that fine margins that made the difference, and they made the 3-1, and it's over.
Yeah, that late miss, and then to go straight down the other end, 59 seconds later, the game's finished. I mean, that's the cruelty of this competition, because the game was opening up there. You were chasing it.
The game was open, but I think they didn't really create, except the 2 goals, the chances. But yeah, we need to learn, man. It's not good enough, and that's it.
They're the kind of side that you knew, if they took the lead, they'd just sit and soak it up, like they did against Juventus. Did you need to create more? Put them under pressure more?
Well, I think first half, yes. I think second half we created enough to score enough goals. So, is that difference of scoring and not scoring that makes it, and we didn't do enough today.
All you can do is go again next year?
Well, it's time to go home. It's been a long season. I need to go back home because my wife is expecting any moment, so I've got something to focus on personally, but it's hard.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, good luck to him and his wife with the newborn coming. Interesting there, he said himself, the first half we weren't very good. We should be more offensive normally and play like we normally do. And that's very true, isn't it? They weren't their normal selves. They had a different lineup, a slightly negative lineup.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
That might have been brought on from previous games at this stage. They've come across at this stage in the last couple of years. So maybe Pep's thought about that and thought, I need to be maybe a bit more conservative, not as expansive. But you see that there's frustration there in an interview. And I'm sure you know what you're like when you're a player in a change room and you don't see the names on a team sheet that you expect to see or that you're accustomed to always seeing. It does send a little bit.
Have you had that?
Yeah, it did. We had it against Bayern Munich. And I mean, Darren Gibson won't thank me for saying it, but it was a young player and not one of the players that you expected to play in that game. He starts the game and everyone's looking around like, whoa, to be fair, he went out and scored a goal, but we didn't get through in the end, I don't think. But it's more about when you watch that team today and we talk about Man City and we give them the credit and we sit here and we speak, oh, how good they were, etc. It's always about the offensive side of the game and about the imagination, about the creativity. All of that was on the bench today.
Yeah.
And then Mahrez, other than Kevin De Bruyne, but then Mahrez comes on and the whole look of the game changes from Man City's point of view.
If you're a Lyon player and you get the team sheet
Delighted,
an hour before, I was going to
cartwheels.
say, and you go, wow, neither of Silva's, no Mahrez, no Foden. No, they've got great players all the way, but and a different kind of system that they don't normally play. You'd be pleased, wouldn't you?
Sorry, Joe. As a defender,
Yeah.
I see the name, no disrespect to anyone on there, but I'm sitting there and going, well, I know I've got a really good idea of what Raheem does because he likes to run in behind. I've got a good idea of what Jesus was. He wants the ball to just in behind around the corners to feet. I can really pick at the players other than Kevin De Bruyne and say, I've got an idea of what they're doing. The players that give you a bit of nerves as well, the players that are a little bit unpredictable. The two Silvers, Mahrez, Foden, that unpredictability brings a little bit of nervousness, and actually I've got to take a step back maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the first team that I saw out there enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you know him, obviously. He does outthink himself sometimes, I think. I mean, genius though he obviously is in many ways in the coaching aspect, and he's unbelievably successful. But I've played with coaches too. Like Cruyff was very similar in the sense that sometimes you used to think, is he doing this just to maybe look good if it works?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Obviously, you know, whatever we're going to say about him, he backs a lot of what he does up with medals. That's what City want. That's what City brought him in for. It was to win the Champions League, and it's not easy, you know.
No, it's not. It's a knockout competition.
You've done it. You've done it. Sorry, it's really not an easy thing to do.
No.
And I just think tonight, like we say, maybe tried to go too far. We're thinking about being too conservative. I think the point about Cancelo and Mendy, I just think Lyon was so compact and so heavy and strong in the middle, and the guys like Dene, they defended really well. It needed a different approach, and it was probably too late when it came.
Perhaps we should give Lyon more credit.
I think they definitely
they
deserve huge credit.
They deserve massive.
They
They
were
were
really
brilliant.
proud of what they did.
OK, let's take a breather. After that breather, we'll hope to hear from Pep Guardiola. And he'll be desperately disappointed, of course. It's been a long while since he's won the Champions League and didn't win it with Bayern. And he's still not won it with Manchester City. A calamitous night for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Here he is with Des Kelly.